Good morning, Alan. Hello, everyone else, and welcome to TARDIS Spider. Today, the Time Lords that were inspired. Let us visit the Time Lords again. We've seen the ones who went mad and the ones that ran away. Well, let us look at the ones that were inspired. They stayed. They work in the system. They are the system. They are the ones that make the capital of Gallifrey really work. Andred, commander of the Chancellery Guard during the Varden and Sontaran incursions, led a revolt against the Vardens during which he attempted to assassinate the Doctor, believing that the President was in league with the invaders. Subsequently, he joined the Doctor's resistance against the Sontarans. After the invasions were repelled, Andred married Leela of the 17, a former traveling companion of the Doctor, believed to be the first non-Gallifreyan permitted to enter and remain in the capital. Andro, technician on duty in the TT capsule repair shop when the Doctor first stole a TARDIS and fled Gallifrey. Andragar, liaison between the High Council and the Gallifrey High Command during the close of the last Great Time War. Daemon, a Matrix technician during the Second Omega Crisis. He discovered that a member of the High Council had stolen and transmitted the Doctor's biodata extract from the Matrix. Darkel, the Inquisitor presiding over the trial of the Doctor in his sixth incarnation. Engen, coordinator of the archives at the time of the assassination of the 406th president. Fabian, another technician on duty at the TT capsule repair shop when the Doctor first stole a TARDIS and fled Gallifrey. Flavia, Chancellor in Barussa's last High Council. She became acting president when the Doctor responded to his reappointment as president by fleeing Gallifrey. Her presidency was not a great success. The General, leader of Gallifrey's High Command in the last days of the Time War. He reluctantly acquiesced to the Doctor's plan to freeze Gallifrey in a single moment in time, leaving the Dalek fleet to obliterate itself. Once Rassilon had succeeded in returning Gallifrey to the universe, hidden at the end of time, the General remained in command of Gallifrey's military. Eventually, abandoning Gallifrey, the General acknowledged that the Doctor as the sole victor in the Time War. Also recognizing his troops' loyalties, having seen Rassilon and the High Council ejected from the planet, the General initially cooperated with the Doctor until he realized that the Doctor's aim was to extract his companion, Clara Oswald, from her time stream at the moment of her death. When he refused to help alter the established historical event of Clara's death, the Doctor shot him. This provoked his 11th regeneration back into a woman after spending one incarnation in the male form. Gomer, Surgeon General at the time of the Doctor's inauguration as the 407th President. Lord Gomer was expelled from the capital under the orders of Castellan Kellner during the Varden invasion. There is no record to indicate what happened to him during this ordeal. Hedden, a member of the High Council at the time of the Second Omega Crisis, when the Council decided to prevent Omega's return by sacrificing the Doctor, Hedden's was the only dissenting voice. This proved to be a feint to disguise his identity as the traitor on the High Council. He seems to have acted, however, out of misplaced reverence for the legend of Omega, and he ultimately gave his life to protect the Doctor. Hilrid, commander of the Chancellery Guard at the time of the assassination of the 406th president. He was murdered by the Master. Castellan Jericho, the Castellan of the Chancellery Guard, responsible for security on Gallifrey in general and for the President's safety in particular. A member of the High Council during the Second Omega Crisis. He was led to believe that the Doctor and President Barussa had conspired to return Omega to Gallifrey. He threatened Barussa and tried to shoot the Doctor, instead killing Hedden, the actual traitor, still in office when the Death Zone was reactivated, The Castellan was framed by Barusa, then murdered by a Chancellery Guard commander, supposedly while trying to escape. Castellan Kellner, the Castellan of the Chancellery Guard, responsible for security on Gallifrey in general and for the President's safety in particular. During the Varden and Santarn incursions, when the Doctor relieved Barusa of the presidency, Kellner's loyalties were smoothly transferred, and his allegiance switched just as smartly to the Vardens and then to the Santarns. He took the opportunity to settle many old scores, locking people up and exiling them from the capital. Every oligarchy gets the Castellan it deserves. Maxwell, commander of the Chancellery Guard at the time of the Second Omega Crisis. He supervised the execution of the Doctor. The Partisan, a member of Rassilon's High Council in the last days of the Time War. She was the first of the Council to suggest that the enormity of the war meant that it was at last time to end it. Rassilon executed her. Runcible, unpopular fellow student of the Doctor and his contemporaries at the Prydon Academy. He eventually found his calling as commentator for the Public Register video and was on the spot to report of the assassination of the 406th president. Sadly for him, nobody would tell him what had happened. Happily for him, the broadcast had already been suspended. He had his moment in court at the Doctor's subsequent trial and was then summoned to help with the Castellan Spandrel's inquiries. The Master murdered him with a stake to the back. Savar, a contemporary and colleague of the Lord Gomor, but lacking his interest in the wavelength broadcast power transduction. Castellan Spandrel, the Castellan of the Chancellery Guard, responsible for security on Gallifrey in general and for the President's safety in particular. At the time of the assassination of the 406th President, denied the chance to investigate the murder before the trial of the accused, he came to accept the Doctor's protestation of innocence and helped him expose Chancellor Goth and the Master's plot. Rodan, space traffic control technician, monitoring activity in the spatial vicinity of Gallifrey before the Varden and Santarn incursions. Briefly exiled from the capital, she joined the Doctor's resistance against the Santarns. Under hypnosis, she assisted in the construction of the DMAT gun he used at the end of the invasion. Thalia, Chancellor on Barusa's first High Council during the Second Omega Crisis. She voted with her peers to execute the Doctor. It is rumored that she was among the High Council members dispatched into the Death Zone by Boris, ostensibly to investigate what was going on. If so, she did not survive. The woman was only one of two members of Rassilon's final High Council in the last days of the Time War to vote against the Lord President's plan to return Gallifrey to the universe. Her punishment was to stand as a monument to her shame, just like the weeping angels of old, and her name was erased from time. Zorak, Cardinal of Barusa's first High Council during the Second Omega Crisis. He voted with his peers to execute the Doctor. It is rumored that he was among the High Council members dispatched into the Death Zone by Barusa, ostensibly to investigate what was going on there. If he did not survive. These are the other Time Lords, the ones who ran Gallifrey. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Enjoy your journey through time and space, and good night.